because it's still there. It's live. Okay, so we're talking this week. Oh, I just have this week's readings up. Let me pull up the actual. So this most recent week's reading was really interesting. The different, like the 5 principles.
Yeah.
Pull up outline.
The 5 levels of family involvement. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Knew there were 5.
What was interesting is I skimmed over the one she told us to skim over. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, this kind of makes sense. And then when I read the actual assignment, I realized it makes more sense. Yep. And it makes sense that the other one doesn't make sense.
Yep. I skimmed it and then I had to go back and reread it all because I was like, actually, this is really good. I'm just going to read it.
Yeah.
So the reconceptualizing the domain and boundaries of family life education.
Yeah.
That one made a lot more sense than the one before it.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, because honestly, when I was looking at boundaries between parent and family education and family therapy, I was thinking it was going to be along the lines of the second one of the reconceptualizing the domain. Because when it talks about distinguishing the boundary lines, this is what I was looking for, seeing the differences. And I love that they put not only family life education and family therapy, but they also focused on FCM too. And that really helped a lot to understand how the 3 kind of intertwine and work together, and how they are set apart.
Yeah, I really liked that in the reconceptualizing one, how it brought in those 3 different fields and how they're not a hierarchy of each other, but they all are separate and important on their own. Yeah. One is not better than the other, because I feel like that is a common misconception that a therapist is better than a family life educator. And then like a case manager is just kind of like someone who doesn't want to do either one of those. But or like someone that doesn't want to be one-on-one, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I really liked that it broke down the like what, when, who, why, where, like all of those things for each of them.
Well, and it also described like the eligibility and motivation for any of those to see a client, which was really helpful, especially because, I mean, we focused so much on FLE, and then to bring in FT and FCM, that was a little confusing for me, but they're all basically essentially the same thing. They all have the same goal. And so that was helpful just to see like who would go to see you, how would you decide if this client is right for you. So that I really liked that because that helped me differentiate between them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and the charts really helped too, to see like what level you're at, to see which program you should be going into. And I love that it also showed like the volunteer work, like people who voluntarily go in are usually for family life education, sometimes therapy, but case managing, I thought it was really interesting that it was like these services are rarely a result from the family initiation, but it was more of like a mandatory program. And I think I've seen that with some of the jobs that I've had where we've had mandatory kids come in to work with. And then we also saw the other side, but it was rare when we had families that wanted to come in for help. So it was just pretty interesting, the links that I was able to see even with real life experiences.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
You go ahead.
I was going to say I had the same realization almost where I worked at an eye doctor's place, like a pediatric ophthalmologist. And so sometimes with premature children or different reasons, there would be a case manager if they were on government aid or it was mandated for them to come see. And so having that experience before fully understanding what a case manager is. I think it helped me understand as I was reading, seeing it in person and reading it.
I agree. I'm going to mix up your names. I agree with Kayleen.
Her.
I can't decipher. Yeah, I was going to say, I can't decipher which one is which because you're both wearing glasses.
I was like, if you put your mouse key on our picture, it will show the names.
Is it in the order that I'm thinking? So it's Julie, Kayleen.
I'm Julie.
So I'm in the purple.
Okay, perfect. It's Kayleen. So I agree with you when you were saying, I lost my thought. Okay, never mind. I got it. When you were saying that it took you a couple times to reread the boundaries between parent and family therapy, because it did take me a couple times, and I was rereading it even now, and it still confuses me a little bit. But it does, like, certain things kind of peg out to you, and you're like, that doesn't sound right. Like in the level 1, where it's talking about how they would only come and see you for like legal reasons, and that family members are only included for legal reasons, which wouldn't make sense because it's family life education. But yeah, there's just like little things like that that you pick out of each level, and you're like, there are things that don't make sense here.
Yeah, and I knew going in it was going to be hard to understand, just because when you're learning about it versus when you've been in the field and you know exactly like what a therapist does, what a family life educator does, you can see the clear lines of where they need to be handed off. But on the other, like the flip side, we're just kind of learning about it. So I knew it was going to, because I'm still trying to figure out those lines.
Yeah.
But I do like that in the second one, it states that the first article is confusing and they are kind of blurring the lines and not defining them correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that. But you know, the first one though, I really love because they really had the emphasis of finding balance in education, because we want personal stories, but at the same time, if we go into too much and put too much depth in there, it causes more harm than good. And so I think it was really important for me to understand that, because everybody's situation is different and specific to their own needs. So one set of information will help one family, while the other one it will actually harm, because their situations are so different. So I think that's part of the reason why we've had to go through so many of our lessons where they keep saying, you know, you need to be specific to your participants. And then the reconceptualizing article just kind of like what Julie was saying, was tying in, here's your levels at a little better understanding. But I do, like I said, the first one, I loved that it talked about not causing harm, because it can happen.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, Melanie texted me. I'm so sorry, I won't be able to. There's a really bad storm and I lost power at my house.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, man. Dang. Yeah.
So other than those two, we also read within that week the Chapter 3 and the Appendix E, which was about the ethics.
And then we also had the professional ethics and practice.
Yes.
So I think Chapter 3, we like going backwards.
I just realized that, yeah.
Chapter 3, you know, is kind of like that, the opening statement of evaluations, which, I mean, I love that they put on there that it's like the least favorite thing for anybody to do is go through surveys, which I completely agree with. I hate surveys.
Really?
But
I love them.
No, hate them.
I do.
But I do love at the very end, he's like, you know, you need to have a clear vision of your programs and goals so that you can successfully measure the progress that you want. Because if you don't have a vision going into it, you're not sure what your understanding and educating on. So I really like that. And then all the list of questions, I had a couple on there that I was like, huh, maybe we could add those. But
And going off of that, how it was saying, like, if there's multiple people, everyone has a different reason for, like, everyone has their own vision statement almost, the reason why they're doing something. And so when you collectively come together, then everything flows better because there is one purpose.
I like what you guys said. I think that because it states in there how like an objective is where learners' thinking must grow and narrow and get more understandable. And I think that's one of the places where I really struggled initially with like narrowing down what I want those objectives to be and what I want the participants' learning goals to be. But you were totally right. After I spoke to Sister Dilworth and I really narrowed those down, it was so much easier to look at the surveys that people were giving me and then realize like, this is what I want to meet. This is what people are telling me. This is what our end result should be. And this is how I can adjust it so that they're more easily meeting these goals. So yeah, I think in order to be able to have that effective family life education program, you really have to have those learning goals and those objectives, not only for you, but like for them. So you know that you can measure your progress, but you're also able to measure what you're doing with them so that you know what you're reaching or you know what you're working towards. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I wonder if that's easier when you're teaching in person because you have that almost immediate feedback where you can gauge their reactions and see how well they're participating versus in a blog, they're just reading and you don't know if it was an enjoyable read for them or it was obligatory. Like, we see that it was visited so many times, but does that mean there were so many different people that they only viewed once or they're coming back for more?
Well, and you miss those nonverbal cues as well.
Yeah.
So kind of like what you're talking about.
Are you guys using Qualtrics for your survey?
We are using Google Survey.
Yeah.
Okay. So Sister Dilworth told me to use Qualtrics. What I didn't realize is that you could answer like 3 questions and not have to answer the rest and submit it. So some people have been doing that for me and they'll answer a couple questions, but not everything. And then they'll submit it, which is not very helpful to me because it's like the rate 1 through 5, this, and this, and it's not the actual open-ended questions.
Yeah. Well, I think ours are kind of that way too. I don't think you have to answer all of them.
I think I intentionally put that everything was optional.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Nothing is required.
But, you know, Julie and I were talking about that the other day. We're like, man, we've got a lot of views on our blog post, but we have absolutely no comments whatsoever. And that's one of the things we really encourage is comments. And I've been trying to find a source to get like our comment option, like on the sidebar, because I think it's, you know, they scroll down and then they have to go through all the references. And then there's the little comment blocks for our blog. And so I'm like, man, that needs to be more visible so they can really see that as an option.
Who is your blog through?
Blogger.
Oh, okay. I did Word. I used to use Blogger, and then this time I did WordPress. And the comment section is really huge. So when you get to the bottom, it's right there, and it's giant. So that is really, really nice, but nobody's commenting on mine either. And I've done the paid marketing through Facebook. Luckily, it wasn't much, but
I was gonna say, I looked into that and it was like $5 or like depending on what you did.
I don't know how, but I somehow got a $30 coupon for the marketing. I have no idea how I did it, but I haven't had to pay. So every now and then I just select, because you select your age group and your demographic. So it's really nice because you have that target population and you can directly narrow it to them and then you send it. And that way you can get like likes or you can ask for comments or tell them when you have a new post and stuff like that. But I'm wondering if there's a better way to do it because I feel like I haven't been attracting as much traffic as I would like. Does that make sense? Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, but back to chapter 3.
I think I have that was my notes for chapter 3.
Yeah, I didn't have very many.
Yeah, Appendix E, I liked how they talked about the virtue ethics and making sure that caring and prudence or practical wisdom and hope and optimism is a part of your process. because I mean, that's a huge difference when you teach. When you're into it, then your participants are going to be into it. When you're not, and you're kind of giving it a sleight of hand, then they'll see that, and nobody's going to benefit from it.
I wrote that down as well. And then I also just wrote down how important it is that, you know, you really read over those code of ethics, especially because I don't know if you guys saw, but on the title page, she wrote how once you get your actual degree, you can go and like not sign up, but see if you can get your certification to be a family life educator. And one of the things is making sure that you understand the family life code of ethics. And so basically you understand the principles and values of being a family life educator. So I thought that was really important as well.
Yeah. And along those lines, I think it was early in the Appendix E, it was saying that because family life education and this field in general is all relatively new, they're kind of learning as they go. Mm-hmm. And they realized after like the innocent period that family life education can actually do harm if it's not regulated and held to a standard. And so I really liked that, where there's tons of people like on Facebook, like we were talking earlier, or that wherever, that because they are married or because they think that they have all this wisdom, that they can just go out and give advice and like teach on their own, but they aren't certified and they aren't licensed. And they can do harm, which family life educators can do as well, but at least they have a foundation. And so I liked that it brings that up, that you have to be held to a standard and have some sort of regulation to prevent harm.
Yeah, no, I love that. And, you know, we in previous lessons, we've used the LDS teaching manual. And so I've applied that to my Sunday school teaching too. I was like, wow, there have been Sunday school lessons that I've been in where it's done more harm than good. And so we need to see that in every teaching aspect, that there are always consequences to our words and people's reactions to them. But,
yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
I liked the assignment we all did together, because I feel like that helped me really apply those ethics to an actual real life case. And that way I was able to look at them in like a practical setting versus just reading them off, which helps me at least know like how would I apply this in real life.
Yeah, because it's easy to say, oh yeah, totally, I get all of those ethics, I totally believe them,
yeah,
like I'm gonna keep them. But then in a real life situation, there can be that tension or where it looks like they're contradicting each other.
Right.
And so I do like having a real life example, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Well, I like that too, because I was like, contradictions, how many contradictions can there be? And then I realized, wow, there can be a lot of contradictions on here, and how you really do have to prioritize and have the right knowledge to prioritize correctly. Yeah, it was crazy to see how much that they overlapped like that.
And the way that she set up that form, that was super, super helpful, because she basically was like, this is how you'd apply like a contradiction. This is how you'd apply the principle. And this is the way that you'd explain it, which was really nice too.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything else for ethics.
I think for the appendix, is that what you're saying? Or both of them in general?
The appendix. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was all that I had.
Yeah, that's all I had too.
And then the professional ethics and practice was very similar, but I think it went into a little bit more detail about ethics.
Big time. Well, and I liked how like the appendix had like 2 or 3 different categories, and then the professional ethics and practice was like, here's like 3 more that you're learning as well. And what's going on here? Why wasn't that in the textbook too?
When was the textbook published? Does anybody know off the top of their head?
No. I have it next to me, but I'd have to shift my camera around and
this way. Yeah, I'm wondering if the actual website is a little bit more recent versus our textbook, and our textbook might have been published after the newer ones were brought up.
That could be it.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to look real fast, but my Kindle is not loading. There it is.
Because I was wondering if the textbook was recent or if it was like 2013, 2012. That seems recent, but it's
not. 2017. It's up to date.
Really? Yep. Crazy. Yeah, because I would have imagined it to match more, but maybe they just didn't want to take a ton of pages. It's fun.
Or maybe, but it's also probably just highlighting some of the important stuff that they go over in the textbook. And then that's why we have the link as well to go over all of it instead of just a focus point.
Yeah.
So a lot of textbooks, they go for that focus.
Yeah.
But
I do like in Palm's article that it was saying like to think before you do stuff, because trying to solve a problem quickly is going to do more harm, or it could do more harm than you intended and bring up more problems instead of like taking time and working through it.
I think that an emphasis that I saw a lot throughout all of the lessons for these weeks was maintaining a positive attitude, because the individuals that you're working with may not be going through positive situations. And so something for a family life educator to really understand is that these families are coming in from all these diverse backgrounds and you don't know their background. And so making a safe space that's really positive and forward thinking is really important as well. I saw that a few times throughout the readings.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only thing to be careful is to not be too happy.
Yeah.
So then it's like, well, you have this perfect life. Of course you're happy. Like, and then it makes them feel worse. I can see
like, oh, you're going through all that experience. How hilarious. No, you know.
I have never done that.
So cool.
I think that's definitely true though, because like if someone is coming in, say from like an abusive situation, you don't want to be like, how's your day going? How are you doing? I think you just have to trust your instincts and know your borderlines, like know your client, I think is one of the rules that we studied. Like know the client, know the participants, you know, feel the room.
Right.
I work in a psych office, and a mistake I always make is when people come in, I go, how are you doing today? They wouldn't be there if they were good. Yeah.
Yeah. But then not like being positive and forward thinking, like you were saying, just not being too much where it's almost patronizing. Like, yeah. You're a terrible person. That's why you're here. Yeah. I'm great. And that's why I'm here to help you.
Yeah. And in that ethics, it talks a lot about understanding the needs of the participants because they're in a difficult situation. And if that comes to case staffing, which I found super helpful because I do it in 2 different classes, this one and another one, then do the case staffing. And I think we talked about that in the ethics assignment where, you know, if it's out of your realm of expertise or you aren't, what's the word I'm searching for? It starts with an S. Qualified. If you're not qualified to take care of that situation, pass it off to another staff member that is, but make sure that your client is aware.
And I think people are understanding if you are honest and say, I'm not completely comfortable in this realm, but I do know someone who is competent or more highly competent in this that I would like to refer you to.
Yeah,
that's the big thing is referring, because they'll trust you more when when you recommend, they'll actually have more willing participation to go to somebody who is more qualified.
Yeah. And I think with family life education, a lot of people, because you're dealing with clientele that's possibly going through a difficult situation, not all the time, but most of the time, there's like that hard borderline between you're not their therapist, you're there to help them with their education, and if it comes to that point where they need a therapist, you need to pass them off to a different professional, if that makes sense, in the nicest way possible. Like, that's not your expertise. You need to help them in a different way.
Yeah. I think we're I think we've reached our 20 minutes, a little over 20 minutes.
Woo!
If there's any more comments.
Good. Well, good job, guys. I think this is actually our last learning teaching interaction, which is so weird because I feel like this class has gone by so fast.
Yeah. It's good though.
Yeah.
We only have, well, counting this week, we have 3 more lessons to write.
Do we really?
Because
We have like 6,
4,
right?
5, and 6.
4, 5, and 6?
Yeah, because this week is lesson number 4.
Are you sure? Because I wrote 4. Yeah, I already wrote lesson 4 and turned it in.
Yeah, for this week, right?
For this week.
For last week. Am I crazy?
Lessons for
Are
this.
you a week ahead of time?
Yeah, you might have gone 1 week more.
That's really nice if I did that, but I don't think I did.
Oh, no. Because, yeah, lesson 1, then 2 and 3 we did for video, and then lesson 4 was last week, and she's grading that.
Oh.
So now it's 5, and then next week will be our last week.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, that's so weird.
Yeah, but then all the research stuff to do after that.
Oh, yeah.
So,
looking forward to that.
But anyway. All right. Well, good night, girls.
And thank you so much for being so accommodating, guys. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah.
The meds
for the advice on the seminars.
Of course. I hope they go well for you. I'm sure you'll love them.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. Good night.
Good night, folks. Goodbye.
Bye.